Well, John, luckily for the Timberwolves, we have things other than their first game to talk about. We will get to the first game, a very sloppy, shoddy performance, but we have bigger things to get to today, starting with Rudy Gobert's new deal and an update on the Timberwolves ownership situation. Let's get to all that here on the Jon Krawczynski Show. He's Jon Krawczynski from The Athletic. I'm Jim Suhan from the Star Tribune. This is our basketball show at talknorth.com. If you like the show, if you like any show at our network, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. I want to thank our many sponsors, including Princeton's Liquors, Chew Vision Institute, TSR Injury Law, Head Flyer Brewing, and by the way, we will be doing first live show of this season, November 19th, 7 p.m. We're working on a guest at Head Flyer, but even when we haven't had guests, we've had great turnouts. We always pack the joint for this stuff. So really looking forward to that. And thanks to Head Flyer. Also, thanks to Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line, sponsor the show and sponsor a Twitter question at the end of the show. All right, let's start with Gobert's deal, John. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think that we were all sort of watching for how this situation would play out. Gobert had, prior to this extension that he signed, he had this year left and then a player option for next season, which meant that he was set up to become a free agent this summer if he so chose. But if he decided to exercise that player option, it's $47 million. And I mean, when you're talking about a team that is trying to navigate this new collective bargaining agreement with the second apron and all of the penalties that we've discussed that come with the exorbitant price tags of your roster like they were having, that was a big number that was sort of looming in the future as a potential albatross that could have really hindered their ability to continue building around Anthony Edwards, as they talked about sometimes in the Karl Anthony Towns trade as well. So up for most of this week and leading up into the game, there had been some back and forth with Gobert's agency and with his representatives, from what I'm told. And I think that they were at a sticking point for a little while in terms of Gobert asking for 4 years. He wanted, a lot of long-term security and stability. And I don't think that the Timberwolves were ready to commit that far for a 32-year-old player. And so what they ultimately landed on was a 3-year deal. That's a 2-year plus one, a player option on that third year, which gives Gobert a little bit more flexibility again. But also the most important thing for the Timberwolves is it really lowers that price tag for next season from $47 million. And I got to see where the final numbers are, but maybe $38, $39 million to start. And that give back by Gobert will allow them to do essentially whatever they want going forward with their team. I mean, in terms of retaining Naz Reid, in terms of, maybe they do something with Julius Randle if he kind of gets there, or Nickeil Alexander-Walker, or they have just so much more flexibility now. And in exchange for that, Gobert gets another 3-year deal that will carry him through to be his 35 years old. And so he gets some of the stability that he wanted. And so I really do think it was a good deal for both sides, and kudos really to Rudy Gobert coming off of a Defensive Player of the Year season, really important to this team, saying, you know what, I am going to give back a little so that we can continue to have a competitive roster for the twilight of my career. And so they were able to get that done, which is really significant.
How many players have done that, taken less than they know they could have gotten to help the team?
Yeah, we saw it with Jalen Brunson with the New York Knicks. Yep. Just did it. But I do, it hasn't been, there haven't been a ton that have given back significant money or taken a significant pay cut the way that Gobert has. I do wonder if that will become a little bit more of the norm going forward here, because as we've talked about before, the second apron and all of the team building penalties that it entails, including limiting what free agents you can go get, in terms of limiting the trades that you can make. It possibly, if you're in it long enough, it pushes your first round pick down to the bottom of the draft. Like, those mechanisms have gotten this to be pretty close to a hard salary cap, and it is forcing teams and organizations to make tougher decisions and to kind of hold a harder line. And I do think that you are going to see them start to really lean on the players and say, hey, like, if you want to be on a winner, if you want to, if you want us to be able to construct teams around you to be competitive, you're going to have to give some of this money back. You can't take a full max. We can't do the full 4 or 5 year extensions with some of these guys. Certainly for the Anthony Edwards of the world, those types of players, they're going to get all of that money. But I think that the players that are just a cut below of max value are going to get pressure to start structuring deals in different ways so that they can help the team. And we will see going forward. But I do think that, Rudy being willing to do this is valuable and significant. But also, I do think in the next couple of years, you're probably going to see a few more deals like this come about.
Interesting. And because Minnesota sports fans have pull-ad-itis, please explain that this isn't either ownership group trying to save money. This is a management team trying to create flexibility.
Yes, exactly. And I got into it with someone on Twitter last week about just this when in describing the Karl Anthony Towns trade, but certainly this Rudy Gobert signing factors into that as well, in terms of, yes, the Timberwolves will save money by not paying Rudy 45 or 46 or $47 million. It will save on their luxury tax bill. It is good for the ownership group, whether that's Glenn Taylor, whether that's Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry. It is good for their bottom line that way. But the more important factors that come into negotiating deals like this is that in the new collective bargaining agreement, there are severe team building penalties that are built in for teams that go above a certain threshold of spending. In the past, Jim, it was basically owners made a decision, yeah, we're going to spend a lot of money, and the only real penalty for them was they were going to pay a stiff luxury tax bill. The Clippers, the Warriors, these big spending, deep-pocketed teams would just say, you know what, we're willing to have $100 million, $110 or $120 million luxury tax bill because we're going to make a bunch of money going for titles and we want to do it. And we have other revenue streams that are going to do it. So we're going to spend as much as we can. This time around in this new agreement, there are certain measures that have been added to the deal so that if you spend above a certain level, it doesn't only mean that you are going to pay extra dollar for dollar luxury taxes, but teams that are in that second apron cannot aggregate players in trade, so they can't send out 2 players to get 1 back. The way that the salaries have to match is not within like a 15 to 20% window of the totals of both deals. It's actually like dollar for dollar. You have to send the exact amount out and get the exact amount back. And then in free agency, you do not have the taxpayer mid-level exception. And so you're really kind of just limited to league minimum type deals to use in free agency. And then finally, when you are in the tax for multiple, or when you're in the second apron for multiple years, then you can have your first round pick down the road pushed down to the bottom of the first round and frozen there. So you can't trade it. And there's no chance if you have a rough year to get into the lottery and improve your lot that way. And so the owners built these things in as a means of forcing talent to be distributed around the league a little bit more, trying to get more parity into the league, but also giving their ownership groups the out of saying, yeah, no, we're not being cheap here. We need to do this so that we can continue to sign younger players around Anthony Edwards, around, Jason Tatum, whoever it is, your young star is. And so we could not do that if you kept spending that way. So it's working very well for these owners. But yes, like the idea that the reason the Wolves are making these deals is just to save money is not the case at all. They are trying to stay relevant and solvent within the new collective bargaining agreement while Anthony Edwards is approaching the prime of his career.
Speaking of ownership, what are the latest developments going on there? I know that the arbitration date is approaching now.
That's right. So we have the arbitration is coming up. It starts the week of November 4th, and I think it can go essentially all week, depending on just how long it takes for the 3-panel judges to conduct the hearings and kind of go over everything. And so kind of one of the things that came out yesterday was that as this date approaches, Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry and their ownership group have put into escrow right around like $942 million. And they have that chunk of money in escrow right now waiting for, should they come out victorious in the arbitration, their plan now is to not just purchase the final chunk of the team that would give them controlling ownership of the team, but they're going to, their plan is to buy out Glenn Taylor completely and to have 100% ownership of this team. And for those who have listened to this program for the last several years and followed kind of the saga that has unfolded here, initially, I believe that there was discussion, and certainly on Glenn Taylor's part, that eventually they would get to a point where Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry would own, around 80% of the team, and Glenn Taylor would retain 20% as a minority owner, and continue to stay on, continue to be some sort of sounding board for them, and just kind of ride off into the sunset that way. Clearly, with how things have completely devolved, especially over the last 6 months or so, that sort of desire to be partners for the long term is not there anymore. And Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry, and they have deep-pocketed a minority ownership group with Michael Bloomberg and Eric Schmidt and several people. They are making moves now to try and just move forward completely without Glenn Taylor if things go their way. I think it's pretty much a message to it's not going to, this kind of thing is not going to help them in arbitration, because the arbitrators will only look at, did Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry follow the contract and the purchase agreement, or did they default in some sort of way that allows Glenn Taylor to nullify the agreement? But what it does do is it really sends a strong message to the rest of the league, even to fans, anyone who may have doubted whether they do have the money to do this. And there has been a consistent and quiet drumbeat over the last several years that, these guys really actually don't have the money to get done what they need to get done. And this is going to fall apart either way. Well, this kind of step that they're taking and having almost $1 billion in escrow and ready to go kind of addresses those concerns. I'm also told that they have another $300 million or so in working capitals for luxury taxes for other expenses that they have to pay. So they believe that they're ready for this. They're being aggressive in terms of positioning themselves to kind of answer any questions that may be still there about their ability to own this team. And as I've reported before, I reported earlier this summer, there's, they continue to move forward with talking about plans for a new arena, all sorts of different things, so that if things break their way, they can hit the ground running and just kind of take off as soon as things are their way. Now, once again, to remind people, if they win in arbitration, they still have to be approved by the Board of Governors, and they still have to get final approval from the league to be the full-fledged owners of this team. And if they do not, or if they lose in arbitration, Glenn Taylor retains the team, and it will be his team going forward, and sort of there will be a status quo that is retained over the course of the long haul now. And so with this all coming to a head, we will figure that out, I think, soon, in just a couple of weeks here. And after the hearing, it might be a month or so before there's a final ruling on it, but we are getting to the point where we will have some sort of clarity on the situation. And it's clear that Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry are doing everything they can to position themselves as strongly as possible should they prevail in this arbitration.
So much more I want to get to. We do need to thank the people who make all this possible, starting with Princeton's Liquors.
Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove. Bill Princeton, the Princeton family have been in the liquor business for years and years. If you want top of the line craft beer selection, if you want top of the line bourbon selection, those are their two wheelhouses. That's where they really kind of excel, and that's where they really lean into. But you can get any kind of spirits you want at Princeton's Liquors, but especially all sorts of selection of craft beer, of bourbon, hard to find versions of it. Stuff that is really affordable, stuff that is higher end. Go to Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove. Bill Princeton has been a big part of the basketball community in this town for a very long time. He was an intern with the Timberwolves and Lynx back in 2001. A local company that has been embedded in this community for a long time. And stop in, tell them the Jon Krawczynski Show sent you. Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove.
Tell us also about your experience at True Vision Institute.
Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles right now for the Wolves Lakers, and we'll be going to Sacramento as well. And just another thing that is easier, about life after having LASIK surgery with True Vision and True Vision Institute in Bloomington is just traveling. I'm not having glasses that I have to worry about. I don't have any contacts that I have to bring, no contact solution that I'm bringing on planes and doing that. I just walk around, can see perfectly fine. And it's just so much easier. I wish I would have done this 10 years ago. If you go to truevision.com, you can set up a consultation, go in, they will take you through everything that you need to know about your vision correction options. That includes LASIK surgery. That includes many other things that they will evaluate your eyes and just see what you're a candidate for. And I luckily was a candidate for LASIK, and my experience was just totally top notch. They take great care of you. The people there are so friendly. And Dr. Chu, once you get into the operating room for literally a 5-minute procedure, he just really is so soothing and calming to get you through it. And since I've been through it now for about 3 months, it's just one of those things where I'm just kicking myself. Like, why did I not do this so long ago? So go to truevision.com to set up a consultation, and you can visit True Vision Institute in Bloomington. They will take great care of you, just like they took great care of me.
Also want to thank longtime sponsor, our longest running sponsor, TSR Injury Law, 612-TSR-TIME, 612-TSR-TIME, a higher level of representation. Call them now. You will thank them later. Just a reminder, if you call them, they will help you. They will point in the right direction. If they take your case, they won't charge you unless they win your case. And look at all the billboards. They win a lot of cases. They have become a great Minnesota success story. They help a lot of people in very difficult fights. You need strong representation when you're injured. Call 612-TSR-TIME. All right, let's get to the court. Julius Randle looked lost. Is there any level of concern, or is that to be expected?
I mean, I think it was to be expected, but certainly it is, I guess, a little disappointing because there was, certainly a lot of discussion going into this game about the comfort level that he has with Chris Finch, about a lot of the work that they had done in practice, even though he'd only played in one preseason game. And I think there was a hope that there would be a little bit more of a seamless integration of Randle into that power forward spot. and really of the team in general, just in moving the ball and playing together, communicating, all of those things. And opening night against the Lakers, it looked like a team that was playing together for the very first time. And I think some of that can be expected. I mean, first of all, Julius Randle had not played in a real game, a regular season game, since the end of January, just coming back from the shoulder surgery. He's going to be a little bit rusty. But more than that, Jim, I just saw a player who seemed to be tentative and unsure of himself and was not playing with any of the force that is a hallmark of his game. He plays bully ball. He's aggressive. He goes at the rim. He puts pressure on a defense, and none of that was really there in the opening game. And again, I don't think it's like DEFCON 1. I don't think that it's anything that is truly unexpected, but still certainly to watch it happen and watch really the Lakers essentially win that game because they outworked the Timberwolves. That was disappointing because that was a very winnable game, even with as poorly as they were playing. And to kind of see Julius kind of missing, letting LeBron back cut him a couple of times, not really kind of fully engaged in the offense. I just think you're seeing a player searching for where he fits in, and it'll probably take a little bit of a little while, but still that one was not an easy watch. Just kind of looking at how, I would say how passive that he was. And so there's going to have to be kind of a lot more work, together, and a lot more comfort to be achieved before you can say, all right, this is a team that's ready to go.
Let's talk about Conley, Bronny, the bench, maybe the Lynx here coming up. But we wanted to let you know that we are planning our first live show of the season, November 19th, 7 p.m. John, myself, and we're working on a guest at Head Flyer Brewing. We've had a blast there before. John, just update us on what's going on at Head Flyer. Yeah,
I mean, you got many people who listen to the show have been to these live shows, and they're so much fun. If you go to Head Flyer, the tap room is open. There's a lot of room for people to sit. We pack the place in, but it's also easy to get around. It's right in Northeast Minneapolis. I've been going there for years, and they have just great beer. We always have drink specials and beer specials on nights of the live show, and we have just great conversation. We take questions from the audience, and the good folks at Head Flyer have been such great supporters of the show and of the Timberwolves, over the last several years. As we've gotten going, you can watch games on the flat screens there, but mostly you can just have great beer. And they have, usually food trucks and food deliveries available. It's just a great place to hang out. So I really look hopefully to see many people face to face there. We get to interact with the fans and just kind of have a lot of basketball fellowship. And it's always a great time at Head Flyer. So I look forward to seeing everyone there.
Yes. And one of our longest running sponsors, one of our many long-running sponsors at this point, Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops Clothing Line. They sponsor the Twitter question we'll ask at the end of the show. What's going on with Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops?
sglambchops.com. If you go there, you can put in a promo code JONK20 for 20% off anything, on the website. And they have the best casual wear you're ever going to find. Sweatpants, shorts, hoodies, t-shirts, hats, all of it that you can wear in the comfort of your home while you're kicking back and watching the Wolves late night on the West Coast, or you can wear it out in the North Loop. It's very stylish. It's going to turn heads. And Jordan and Craig, who are courtside at these games, you saw Jordan at in some of the Wolves kind of marketing campaigns leading up to this season. They're embedded in this basketball community as well. We love to align with companies and people who are out in the community, who are regular faces, who are kind of working their way up and trying to make a difference. And that's what Jordan and Craig do. You go to sglambchops.com, JONK20 for 20% off anything there. You'll look good. You'll feel good with super high quality, affordable, casual wear. Best shorts I've ever worn, super comfortable hoodies, all of it. So go to sglambchops.com.
Any concern that Mike Conley had a bad first game?
I mean, it certainly was uncharacteristic, Jim. I don't expect it to look like that going forward, but he was terrible, and we have not said that very often about Mike Conley. Couldn't hit shots. another guy who just seemed a step slow in the game, and the entire team really was a step slow, in that game. And he turned the ball over 3 times, in the first half. Just was not in any kind of a rhythm at all. The Lakers are a little bit tougher of a matchup for him in terms of they are bigger. They have a lot of size that can sometimes bother a guy like Conley. But when he struggles the way that he did, it's no secret that the Timberwolves in general are going to struggle. I expect him to bounce back. I expect him to figure things out, but he has been so reliable throughout his stay here in Minnesota that when you see a clunker like we got in the opener against the Lakers, it really stands out. And I'm not exactly sure why. It just was not there for him. There was not the energy. The ball was not moving. And he just never looked like he found a way to kind of impact the game in any kind of a positive light. So this feels like a lot like the game at Toronto last season to start the season. Yeah, it just like, there's a lot of anticipation. There's a lot of excitement. Then they go into the game and they just lay an egg. And you're just like, ugh, like that does not look good at all. Like that's not what it's supposed to be like. And lo and behold, they certainly recovered from that. 56 wins, Western Conference Finals. So I don't want to put too much on one game, but I also don't want to just like swipe it under the rug. Like they needed a wake up call apparently. And they all just looked like they were not ready for opening night. And maybe this one on national TV, and with how poorly they played, maybe that'll be what needs to motivate them and wake them up a little bit, because they're going to go into Sacramento on Thursday night and play another good team on the road. So they have to be more ready than they were against the Lakers.
We've talked about their depth. They didn't use much of their depth. Mm-hmm. Which of the players who didn't play much or at all could be in line for more minutes as they get rolling here?
Yeah, Finch had talked about playing 10 guys, and that was the plan. That it's hard to do that, though, and he did not do that in game 1. He only played 9, and it's sort of like he only played like 8 plus, because Joe Ingles played 7 minutes, and that was it. So I would expect, Jim, that if there is someone that is in line to be in the rotation that was not an open night, I think Josh Minot. He played very well in the preseason. He is athletic. He's bouncy. He has energy. He can go rebound the ball. He was shooting it very well in the preseason. And so if there's another situation like Tuesday night where there just did not seem to be enough force and enough zip in the team, maybe putting Minot out there is an option. I think that it might be a little bit yet before we see Rob Dillingham. I think that Chris Finch is trying to ease him into things, and he is a 19-year-old rookie that has yet to earn sort of the trust that is going to be involved in getting some minutes there. But Josh Minot feels like one of those players that, say mid-third quarter, when you just are looking around and you've tried everything else and the team is not getting going, put him out there and just see if he can kind of boost you a little bit. And so I would not be surprised to see Josh get some minutes against the Kings, especially if they're a little stagnant again at the start of the game.
So I was in New York for the Game 5 of the WNBA Finals. I was close to Cheryl Reeve when she went off on her rant. I was even closer to all the WNBA PR people and officials who were sitting about 3 feet from me and were turning purple. Just perspective. You and I have both been covering sports for a long time. We both have been around a lot of coaches who have vented privately or off camera about things. Have you ever seen an on-camera diatribe like that in a moment that big for the league?
I would be hard pressed to come up with another one. I mean, certainly, she spared no one in that post-game press conference. And I think that she had good reason for some of it, certainly. I mean, you look at the officiating was terrible. They did get a raw deal at the end of the game. And I do think that if some of her just blistering criticism leads the league to reevaluate how it it does its officiating, especially with the replay situation and not having a neutral third party to kind of look at the tape and help the officials in the moment get through it. I think that needs to happen. I think there are real weaknesses within the infrastructure of the WNBA's officiating that need to be addressed. And she was making that clear. And so I understand her kind of just banging the drum about the need to improve that area of the league, because there are more eyeballs on this league than ever before. It is going to become more glaring when you have those weaknesses and those holes. And so I get that part of it. When you kind of move to, the Liberty and how they were constructed and, super teams and circumventing the salary cap and stuff, that's dangerous territory. It is like, I just, you were there, so I'd like to hear like just how it felt in that moment. But I just feel like you lost. You did get a raw deal, but you also didn't score any points in you didn't get a field goal in overtime. You turned the ball over all the time. Courtney Williams was terrible. Like, there were plenty of other reasons you lost too. And so to kind of turn the attention to the Liberty and how they were constructed and all of that, when she has won 4 championships with Hall of Fame filled rosters, like that part of it I thought was dangerous. I will say the officiating, you can make a case for. The other stuff, I don't know. Like, how did it feel in the moment there?
I thought she damaged her own credibility because, as you said, she was right about the officiating. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But to then segue to make it, okay, this one specific thing went wrong. I'm angry about it. I feel like my team should have won and we need to fix the system. That's pretty on point stuff. I'm sure the league doesn't like it. I'm sure the Liberty wouldn't have liked it, but that's in the moment true. That's truth. That's speaking truth to power. Then she segued into just attacking everyone she could think of. And I think that damaged her credibility in this case. Not her credibility as a legendary coach, one of the greatest coaches of all time, just as somebody who's trying to make a point. I mean, if I tell you, John, listen, I need you to, and we're making a complete hypothetical here just to make a point. John, I need you to spend an extra half an hour after every game when you're writing just to fine tune your second paragraph. I mean, whether I'm right or wrong, I'm talking to you about something constructive that's meaningful for your career, for your employer. And then if I say, by the way, you didn't edge your lawn at all last year, and that's driving down all the property values in Minnesota. I mean, okay, now you're not going to listen to the first thing I said, because the second thing I said was out of this world. She has talked before about teams circumventing the salary cap and teams flying privately before they were supposed to. And this is where I think she was least credible, when she ripped super teams.
Right.
Two things. Number one, she had super teams. Now,
she had 4 of them.
She didn't get them through free agency, but she had super teams. And she's admitted many times, if they make one more bucket at the end of the 2010 season, they don't end up being able to draft Maya Moore. And if they don't draft Maya Moore, we're not talking about 4 championships here. Number 2, she tried to build a super team. She recruited Breanna Stewart and Courtney Vandersloot in free agency. She wanted to build a super team around Breanna Stewart. So for her to rip a super team, that's bonkers.
Yeah, I mean that is it's I think like Sylvia Fowles essentially.
Yeah, it was a trade, but it really was free agency because Sylvia wanted to play here, and she basically put Chicago in a position where they had no choice but to trade her here.
Yeah, exactly. So like that part of it just really does fall flat and feels a little hypocritical, to be honest. And I like Cheryl, and I have a great respect for everything that she's done. And I thought this season was maybe her finest work.
Agreed.
Because she did not have a super team. She reassembled a roster on the fly and got them to play beautiful basketball, and get as far as they did, and really could have won their 5th championship. Like, it was a phenomenal job by her. She deserved Coach of the Year. She deserved Executive of the Year. But yeah, when you are going to go at another team for aggressively pursuing talent and assembling these super teams, when you had a dynasty that was a super team, look up at the rafters at Target Center and all those retired jerseys, and it just it rings hollow when that is a criticism of yours. And I do think that making that criticism allows the league to not put as much weight into her criticism of the officiating, which is valid and needs to be addressed. And so when you kind of go that route, it's easier for other people to dismiss your very good points that you are making in other areas. And so it also just, it doesn't look like a person that loses with any kind of grace. And yes, like, she had every right to be pissed and feel wronged. And, you know, the other part, like the Kathy Engelbert New York dress was
it's embarrassing,
unbelievably childish and sophomoric and stupid. Like that kind of stuff, like fuels fan angst and conspiracy theories and all of these things, and just shows that, you know, that Kathy in particular, and maybe this league in general, was not ready for some of the attention that has been coming its way this season. But yeah, I just think that I would have liked to have heard at one point through that, rather than, you know, going at the Liberty and the super team stuff of just like, look, we got a raw deal here. This was terrible. This has to be improved and this has to be fixed. But also, we had a million opportunities to win that game and we didn't do it.
Yep.
And take a little bit of ownership of it and congratulate the other team for getting through it and all of that, and just, you know, just accept some of that. And it's a bad look when you go scorched earth to the degree that she did.
Agree. All right, we'll see you all November 19th, 7 p.m. at Head Flyer Brewing. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Thanks to all of you who listen to TalkNorth.com and the Jon Krawczynski Show.